What's up, Leafs Nation? Welcome to the regular season finale of the Overseas Leafs Report. Yes, sir, the regular season has come to an end. 82 games of Maple Leafs hockey. Last time we left off, the Leafs weren't playing very well against bad teams. And this week was a bit of the same. The difference, of course, is that they were playing against mostly playoff-bound teams, potentially resting players, except, of course, the Montreal Canadiens, who got bounced. So the first game I'll talk about is the Leafs making their return to Long Island after the previous matchup, which was a bit of a rough night for the Leafs and John Tavares. I think there was still some ill feelings this time around, but definitely a lot tamer reaction. The Islanders, I think, are surprisingly back in the playoffs and had a really good season with Barry Trotz and Robin Lehner and Lou Lamoriello since they joined the team. So I think that's what made the first game back very important, and this one a little bit less. But in recent memory, I think this is the Leafs' best game overall. Tight first period, both teams giving it their best shot. But in the second, it was Calle Rosen who scored from the point in his first game of the season. So I was really happy to see him score there and see the Leafs open the scoring. A lot of positive energy coming out of this particular one, especially with John Tavares getting the game-winning goal after receiving a great pass from Mitch Marner. Really, I think, putting to bed, no pun intended with the pajama jokes, all the feelings that might have remained about his departure from Long Island. And from there, I was really hoping that the Leafs could wrap up the shutout for Freddie Anderson, who had a really good game, really bounced back, I thought. Unfortunately, the Islanders did score a little bit late and put the pressure on with goalie pulled. The Leafs hung on, and this is the game that allowed the Leafs to finally clinch their playoff spot officially. Looking at the standings, it seems like forever now that the Leafs and Boston Bruins were bound for a first-round matchup. But to have it officially sealed against the Islanders, John Tavares getting the game winner, just brought a lot of positive storylines together. On the next night back in Toronto, the Leafs were up against the Carolina Hurricanes, making a push for their first playoff appearance in many years. A lot has been said this year, obviously, about their post-game celebrations. But now that the storyline has shifted to making the playoffs, expecting a good game between the two teams. But instead, it was the Hurricanes that really came out and took it to the Maple Leafs. It wasn't a great look for Gareth Sparks, giving up 3 goals. Bit of a ridiculous situation where they negated an empty net goal using an offside challenge. And then right after, Dougie Hamilton potted the winner. After Carolina won the faceoff outside the zone, he had a good game with 2 goals. John Tavares added to his scoring totals, getting 47 on the season. So obviously his first season in Toronto has gone perfectly according to plan. But this game just didn't show the Leafs at their best. Later, still at home, the Leafs matched up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who were chasing history. They've just played incredibly all season. Faced a little bit of adversity when Vasilevsky was injured. That didn't slow them down. And even towards the end of the season, they just kept going, dominating teams and picking up wins along the way. Leafs started the game well, with Mitch Marner opening the scoring in the first period, but then giving up a shorthanded goal to Steven Stamkos in the second period, I think really killed the Leafs' chances here. From then on, in the third period, it was all Tampa Bay. They picked up 2 goals to wrap up a 3-1 win. Finally, the last game of the season was on the road for the Leafs in Montreal. I was secretly hoping it would come down to this game for the Canadiens to really battle for a playoff spot. It's kind of their own fault that they dropped heading down the stretch. The last time these two teams played, there was even talk about a potential matchup in the first round. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition. But nevertheless, given the strong rivalry between the two teams, it's always a good game. Added storyline here being Bob Cole's last game commentating for Hockey Night in Canada. Truly remarkable career, and he's had some great sound bites over the years. And this game does not disappoint despite the clear lack of meaningful implications. Leafs came out strong, opened a 2-goal lead, then Ryan Poehling, making his debut for the Montreal Canadiens, took over the game. Great story for him. He scored the next 2 goals to tie it up. Montreal took the lead on the power play. Leafs came back with a goal by Trevor Moore. And then the teams just exchanged goals, exchanged chances. Finally, in the third period, it looked like the Leafs were going to be able to come out on top. Kasperi Kapanen recording his 20th goal of the season, basically in an open net, but he was in the right position at the right time. But of course, it was going to be Ryan Poehling's night, and he scored the hat-trick goal at 17:29 of the third period. Push it to overtime. No goals were scored there. Leafs ending up in their second shootout of the season, hoping to redeem themselves after a bit of a pitiful shootout performance against the Flyers. Started off perfectly for the Leafs with Austin Matthews scoring on the first attempt. But then right after, Jonathan Drouin for the Montreal Canadiens scored. Mitch Marner missed. John Tavares got to the net this time but still missed. And Ryan Poehling for Montreal scored. It was really his night overall. Kasperi Kapanen missed after. So the Leafs dropped the finale to the Montreal Canadiens. Nevertheless, from picking up the 1 regulation time point, the Leafs pushed their points total to 100. It's the first time in franchise history that they've recorded 2 seasons of 100 points or plus. That's a stat that was truly hard to believe for me, given the team's rich history, and obviously the fact that they've had 100-point seasons before. But to string 2 in a row like this, I think shows that there's a lot of positive to take from the current build of this team. So I hope you've enjoyed the recap so far this season. I'll be back with the playoffs preview in a couple of days. I'm sure we'll hear a lot about the upcoming matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Boston Bruins.